Former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates offered a stark assessment of the interconnected web of global conflicts, tracing a chain of events that she argues has destabilized the world stage since the end of the first Trump administration. Coates, who served as Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy National Security Advisor for Middle Eastern and North African Affairs from 2017 to 2021, drew on her first-hand experience to connect dots between ongoing wars in Ukraine, the Middle East, and rising tensions in East Asia. She contended that these conflicts are not disparate crises but symptoms of a broader erosion of American deterrence, sparked by policy shifts under the Biden administration. All of these wars are connected, Coates asserted during the interview, emphasizing how perceived U.S. weakness has emboldened adversaries like Russia, Iran, and North Korea to form dangerous alliances. This interconnectedness, she warned, poses an existential threat to global stability, but she also highlighted a potential path forward: a renewed meeting between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un, which could yield significant diplomatic and strategic gains for the United States. Coates began her analysis by pinpointing the 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan as the initial domino in this chain of events. The chaotic evacuation, marked by the fall of Kabul and the abandonment of billions in military equipment, sent shockwaves through the international community. "That was the moment when our adversaries saw America blinking," Coates said, recalling the images of desperate Afghans clinging to departing aircraft. She argued that this display of disarray signaled to Vladimir Putin that the United States lacked the resolve to defend its interests or allies. Less than a year later, in February 2022, Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, betting on a muted Western response. Coates linked this directly to Afghanistan, noting that Putin's calculations were influenced by the lack of consequences for previous aggressions, such as the 2014 annexation of Crimea, but amplified by the recent U.S. retreat. Putin tested the waters, and when he saw no strong pushback, he went all in, she explained. Building on this, Coates wove in the October 7, 2023, Hamas attack on Israel, which ignited the ongoing war in Gaza. She described Iran as the common thread, asserting that Tehran, emboldened by Russia's success in Ukraine and the U.S.'s hesitant support for Kyiv, ramped up its proxy activities. Iran, a major supplier of drones and missiles to Russia, saw an opportunity to stretch American resources thin across multiple fronts. Iran is the linchpin here, Coates stated. They're funding Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, while also aiding Russia in Ukraine. This isn't coincidence, it's a coordinated strategy to undermine U.S. influence. She pointed to reports of Iranian ballistic missiles being used by Russian forces and North Korean artillery shells appearing on Ukrainian battlefields as evidence of this emerging axis of autocrats. North Korea's involvement, in particular, has escalated, with Kim Jong Un reportedly supplying millions of rounds of ammunition to Russia in exchange for advanced technology that could enhance Pyongyang's nuclear capabilities. This barter system, Coates argued, closes the loop, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of aggression where one conflict fuels another. The former advisor didn't stop at diagnosis. She critiqued the Biden-Harris administration's foreign policy as a catalyst for this escalation. According to Coates, decisions like lifting sanctions on Iran's oil exports and slow-walking military aid to Ukraine projected indecision, allowing adversaries to exploit divisions within NATO and the broader Western alliance. When you have a vacuum of leadership, bad actors fill it, she said. She contrasted this with the Trump era, where, she claimed, maximum pressure campaigns against Iran and North Korea kept these regimes in check. Under Trump, Iran faced crippling sanctions that reduced its oil exports by over 90%, limiting its ability to fund proxies. Similarly, North Korea's missile tests halted after the 2018 Singapore summit, a period Coates described as relative calm in the Korean peninsula. The resurgence of testing and provocations post-2020, she said, correlates directly with the change in U.S. leadership. Shifting to potential solutions, Coates addressed the prospect of President Trump reconvening with Kim Jong Un, a scenario that has gained traction amid reports of back-channel communications. Trump, who made history as the first sitting U.S. president to meet Kim in 2018 and again in 2019, could leverage his personal rapport to extract concessions, Coates suggested. What could Trump get out of this? Real progress on denuclearization, for starters, she posited. During their previous encounters, the two leaders discussed a grand bargain, where North Korea would dismantle its nuclear program in exchange for economic incentives and security guarantees. Although the Hanoi summit ended without a deal due to disagreements over sanctions relief, Coates viewed it as a foundation rather than a failure. They built trust. Kim respects strength, and Trump delivers that unapologetically, she noted. In the current geopolitical landscape of 2025, with Trump back in the White House following his 2024 election victory, a new meeting could disrupt the Russia-North Korea partnership. Coates highlighted intelligence assessments indicating that Pyongyang has provided Russia with over 1 million artillery shells and dozens of ballistic missiles since 2023, bolstering Moscow's war effort in Ukraine. 6. By engaging Kim directly, Trump could offer alternatives, such as partial sanctions relief or infrastructure aid, that make alignment with the West more appealing than with Putin. Kim is isolated and his economy is in shambles. He needs investment, not just Russian tech transfers, Coates argued. This could indirectly weaken Russia in Ukraine, forcing Putin to the negotiating table and reducing the flow of weapons that prolong the conflict. Moreover, a successful Trump-Kim dialogue could reverberate across the Middle East. Coates connected North Korea's arms exports not only to Russia but potentially to Iranian proxies, citing unconfirmed reports of NK munitions appearing in Yemen and Gaza. Breaking this supply chain would starve Iran of resources, pressuring Tehran to curb its support for Hamas and Hezbollah. It's all linked, she reiterated. If we peel North Korea away from this axis, Iran loses a key supplier, and the pressure on Israel eases. She also touched on China's role, noting that Beijing, North Korea's primary economic lifeline, has grown uneasy with Kim's deepening ties to Russia. A U.S.-North Korea thaw could compel China to enforce sanctions more stringently or mediate, especially as Trump ramps up tariffs and confronts Beijing over Taiwan. Coates acknowledged risks, such as critics accusing Trump of appeasing dictators. Diplomacy isn't pretty, but it's necessary, she countered, referencing historical precedents like Nixon's opening to China. She argued that Trump's peace through strength doctrine, combining military buildup with bold negotiations, has proven effective. During his first term, ISIS was defeated, the Abraham Accords normalized relations between Israel and several Arab states, and no new wars were started under U.S. auspices. Compare that to the last 4 years. Ukraine invaded, Gaza in flames, Houthis attacking ships in the Red Sea, Coates said. She advocated for a return to that approach, including reinstating maximum pressure on Iran and bolstering alliances like Quad in the Indo-Pacific to counter China. Delving deeper into the chain of events, Coates explored economic underpinnings. The Biden administration's green energy push, she claimed, curtailed U.S. oil production, driving up global prices and enriching Russia and Iran. Russia's war machine is funded by $100 a barrel oil. If we unleash American energy, we crash those prices and defund the aggressors, she proposed. This economic leverage could be part of any Trump-Kim deal, perhaps tying North Korean concessions to access to U.S.-led energy projects in Asia. She also discussed the human cost, citing over 500,000 casualties in Ukraine and tens of thousands in Gaza, arguing that interconnected conflicts amplify suffering. These wars feed off each other. Refugees from one become recruits for another, and arms from North Korea end up killing innocents thousands of miles away. On the Trump-Kim front, Coates outlined a potential roadmap. First, a preliminary meeting to re-establish dialogue, possibly in a neutral location like Vietnam or Mongolia. Agenda items could include a moratorium on missile tests, destruction of specific nuclear facilities, and international verification. In return, the U.S. might ease travel bans or allow limited trade. It's step by step, not all or nothing, she said, contrasting it with past all-or-nothing demands that stalled progress. She drew parallels to the Iran nuclear deal, which Trump withdrew from in 2018, calling it flawed but acknowledging the need for better alternatives. Experts outside the interview have echoed Coates' views. For instance, analysts at the Heritage Foundation, where Coates now serves as vice president, have published reports on the Russia-Iran-North Korea nexus, warning of a new Cold War alignment. 16 former officials like Mike Pompeo have similarly advocated for Trump-style diplomacy, arguing it deters aggression better than multilateral talks. Critics, however, from think tanks like the Brookings Institution, cautioned that meeting Kim without preconditions could legitimize his regime and undermine allies like South Korea and Japan. Coates also addressed domestic implications, noting that resolving these conflicts could free up resources for U.S. priorities like border security and economic recovery. Foreign policy starts at home. If we're bogged down in endless wars, we can't focus on American workers, she said. She praised Trump's recent proposals to rename the Defense Department to the Department of War, for a tougher posture, seeing it as symbolic of the needed shift. 4. In wrapping up, Coates expressed optimism that Trump's return could reverse the chain of events. We've seen what weakness brings, war on multiple fronts. Strength can bring peace, she concluded. A Trump-Kim meeting, in her view, isn't just about North Korea, it's a pivot point to dismantle the connected threats facing the world. As global tensions simmer, her analysis serves as a call to action for decisive U.S. leadership. This interview comes at a critical juncture, with North Korea conducting record missile launches in 2025 and Russia advancing in eastern Ukraine. Coates' insights underscore the urgency of addressing these linked crises holistically. While the full impact of a potential Trump-Kim summit remains speculative, her tracing of the chain reveals how one diplomatic breakthrough could cascade into broader stability. The world watches as Trump navigates these waters, potentially reshaping the geopolitical landscape for years to come.